We are looking at immigration, and we have a case study to consider, which is Chicago. Under the era of immigration, we are going to look at the reasons that made majority of people to move across Atlantic to settle down in America. We are going to look at the reasons behind the movement, and we are going to look at the consequences of immigration to America, as well as Chicago. Why is Chicago an important or an integral part of our study as far as immigration is concerned? The immigrants had different reasons for leaving their homes, moving to America, settling down, and leaving behind their homelands. Number one, they were looking for better jobs, better living standards. Others were escaping from poverty in their homes. For example, the Irish people, Swedish, Norwegians, and Italians. Others, such as the Jews, who ran away from Russia and other Eastern European states, they were motivated to migrate because of the political persecutions back in Russia. These immigrants, mostly from Europe, had important scientific skills which promoted or which contributed to the growth of industries in the US, especially during the 1920s, at the period of the economic boom. Such industries which benefited from the skills of the immigrants include the automobile industry at Detroit, pioneered by Henry Ford and Rockefeller. Because of the mass movement of people or of migrants to America, the US government introduced a system of annual quotas, and this system sought the reduction of migrants to America. Although this program or this system was introduced, a further 7 million people arrived in America 30 years later, towards the end of the Second World War, which was in 1945. The immigrants, once in America, participated in the second migration by moving westwards, which was part of American move westwards. Chicago was one of America's biggest cities. It was strategically situated, had important industries such as steel, meat, and clothing, and these industries in Chicago offered jobs to millions of unskilled workers. However, these jobs were seasonal, and the unskilled workers could only benefit when the industries were busy. Most of these workers who were in this seasonal employment were from Poland, Italy, or the African American migrants. The immigrants, though they contributed to the growth of industries in America, never shared much or never benefited much in the 1920s economic boom. For example, only 3% of the semi-skilled workers or those with semi-skills owned a car, compared to the richer areas or to the richer Americans who owned a cars with a percentage of 29%. That is 3% compared to 29%. A huge difference of 26%. These workers in Chicago who were in seasonal employment were unable to afford items on hire purchase. They could only buy smaller items such as the radios on credit. Remember, radios were one of the features or characteristics of the economic boom period or roaring 20s in America, and almost every family owned a radio. These immigrants or these poor whites could only purchase smaller items like the radios on hire purchase, and they could not patronize the new chain stores, which were mostly located in the districts where the middle class lived. The poorer white industrial workers also preferred to buy their items from local groceries where the owners were mostly flexible and could allow them to purchase goods on credit. Some of the consequences of immigration include in 1860, there were 5 million people in America, but in 1910, there were approximately 30 million people, a difference of 25 million people from 1860 to 1910, and this increased the population of America. There was also fast economic development or economy boomed or developed because of the innovative skills that were contributed by the immigrants. There was growth in economy, or there was fast development in the economy. There was increase in population, and there was growth of urban areas, huge urban areas, because of countryside to urban areas movement, and people who were working in agricultural industry, the number of people declined. Many people started or shifted to working in mining, engineering, and building industry. There was also growth of mix of nationalities, culture, and religion because of the migration of foreigners to America. And this contributed to the growing agitation or growth of movement, which was based on racial grounds against allowing too many foreigners into America. Not all Americans enjoyed the economic boom. For example, the immigrants were faced with hostility, although they provided their scientific or innovative skills. The wealth was mostly concentrated to the wealthy people. Super corporations took over the industry, and Republicans were pro-business. Therefore, they did nothing to stop or limit the growth of super corporations. Traditional industries such as the coal industry also suffered. There was overproduction of coal, just like the farmers, and this reduced the prices of their goods, and the profits of the coal also went down. Coal also was faced with stiff competition from new power sources like electricity and oil, and other traditional industries that were faced with challenges or problems include the shoemaking, textiles, and leather industries. The traditional industries were also faced with competition from used man-made materials from industries which were using man-made materials, and these man-made materials were mechanized or were made using the machines. The growth in traditional industries slowed down and profits declined. The workers suffered as the industries became more mechanized, and skilled workers mostly struggled to compete both against, number one, machinery, and number two, cheap labor offered by the immigrants or by the unskilled laborers. Workers' wages did not increase, and most of the Americans lived lived below poverty line, and they were not able to afford basic essentials like clothing, shelter, and food.